Hey, what's up? This is Seth Green, and you are listening to Somewhere in Vegas with Mark, and I am so hot, I would desperately like a glass of water. Please, please, give me some water.
This is Cindy Preston, and I'm with Mark on Somewhere in Vegas.
Hi, this is Melissa Peterman from CMT's The Singing Bee and the television show Reba. And I have to tell you, I just have to get it off my chest, I love Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hi there. This is Faith Roscoe from General Hospital. You're listening to Mark on Somewhere in Vegas. And you better watch out. We know how to find you if you're not listening.
Hi, this is Shannon Egan from Whippet, and I love Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hey, this is Lee Allen Baker with Somewhere in Vegas, talking with Mark with a Q.
This is Courtney Cronin. You're listening to Somewhere in Vegas with your host, Mark, and I would make sure to listen every week because he's a sure bet.
Hey, this is the Money Man, Eddie Money. I got 2 tickets to Paradise, and it's, you know what? It's Somewhere in Vegas. And what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Hi, this is Crystal Kale, and I love Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hi, this is Terry Nunn from Berlin, and you're listening to Mark Somewhere in Vegas.
Hi, this is Miracle Lori from Joss Whedon's Dollhouse. There are 3 flowers in a vase, and I'm listening to Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hi, this is Erin Hill, and you are listening to Mark on Blog Talk Radio and Somewhere in Vegas. Mark is a great guy.
Hi, this is Sean Pulaski. I'm still trying to figure out Mark Pico's sexuality, but I know you're listening to Somewhere Live in Vegas.
Here you go, Mark. I'm sorry. I thought you were she. I'm sorry. Get out of the tent. Let's get out of here.
Hey, this is Lance and Anna from Free Radio. And Anna?
And you're listening to Somewhere in Vegas.
Yes.
My favorite.
You know, that's usually what happens with me. I go to Vegas and I get lost, and so I end up somewhere in Vegas.
Somewhere in Vegas.
But I just don't know where it is.
Not quite sure.
Yeah, word.
Get ready. It's going to be hot. It's in Vegas. Check out Mark. Be there or be square.
My guest at this time is a really exceptional documentary filmmaker. His movie Zero Gravity is actually playing across the United States in many different locations. Currently, it's going to be at the Boston Film Festival coming up this weekend, as well as the New Jersey Film Festival and playing in Albuquerque. Really kind of getting a lot of traction, as it were. We got Thomas Verrette on with us right now. How you doing, Thomas?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Tell me first of all how you got involved in the project and wanting to cover this competition.
I've always had a curiosity and fascination for all things space and the philosophy of where we belong in the universe and those kind of big questions. And my executive producer had a connection with MIT. MIT is one of the main contributors to the Zero Robotics program, which is what's featured in the film. And he asked me if I wanted to go shoot something for it. And I kind of just jumped on the opportunity, not even really knowing a whole lot about it at the time, other than it was, the program features students in middle school coding satellites aboard the International Space Station. That alone got me very, very interested quickly. And then it was kind of just a run and gun process to get up to speed and get going.
I mean, it's interesting to see, the current push over the past decade or so of getting more students into STEM projects earlier, especially girls. I mean, it's been interesting to see kind of the press for more kids to get into science and technology and all that as well. I mean, how is it for these kids to kind of enter that space, even at in the middle school age?
Yeah, my impression was, at least for the documentary, most of the students hadn't done a whole lot of coding before. And I think with programs like this, it's really about trying to engage and give those opportunities to anyone really at an early age, because that's kind of the time where passions start to develop, and sort of trying to make those opportunities equitable as part of the Zero Robotics program, and also was an aspect of that made me really want to try to tell this story, because I think there's roadblocks all over the place that we're, in our society that are getting broken down right now, to kind of promote a more equitable and opportunity-driven future, and to see students and women in particular getting more engaged with science and STEM and where we're going in the future is really important for me, and it's also very exciting to see.
And going off of that, just watching the trailer, you can see that we're also looking a little bit more into diversity in terms of that as well. I mean, we're getting away from what used to be thought, of being a white collar, nerdy guy with glasses at, a computer terminal back in the 60s and 70s and early 80s, to what we were seeing now, which is we're seeing Latina girls, coding. We're seeing, different races basically just getting into coding as well. We're seeing that over many genres, including movies, most fiction movies and documentaries. How is it for you to kind of see, the kind of the diversity that STEM is kind of reaching out to?
Well, it's obviously very exciting to see all of the interest and engagement, of course. One of the things that I took away from the experience and is a major part of the film, and also really comes from the students themselves, is the ability for all of them to work together, no matter where you come from or what your race or religion is, even to kind of solve big problems and make friendships and understand each other. I mean, I think that's kind of the sort of the growth mindset that all of that promotes in the film with the kids at a young age, but just even for all of us adults kind of looking to the next generation to pick up, the mantle for when they turn into adults and kind of get into society as adults making those changes. It was a really profound experience to see how effective and inspiring the whole process was.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the class themselves, I know in the trailer, there was somebody that was interested in marine biology. So not necessarily the fact that they are coding for the space station and it could be, a future in space exploration, but the fact that this skill can be transferable to other industries and other portions of their passions, as it were. So, I mean, that's kind of an interesting aspect to it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. To that point, I think that space, and in this case, the competition, it's a vessel that engages all sorts of other interests, really. I mean, like coding, as you pointed out, yes, they're coding satellites for the space station, but that's a universal skill that can be applied to almost any industry these days. And that's really what it's about. It's utilizing that kind of wonder to get engaged in something that's very practical or applicable, really, for their what's coming up in the future, essentially.
Well, I mean, on the converse side of that, the idea that for a couple decades, the idea of space exploration or the excitement of wanting to work for NASA or go up into space was kind of diverted after we stopped going to the moon. Basically things went kind of a little bit downhill for a while there. But now that we're seeing private entrepreneurs fly into space, it seems like there's a kind of new kind of passion to want to explore space or to be able to do more space exploration, as it were. I mean, how is it for the kids to kind of be excited about that possibility of this being something that's maybe a goal in the future?
I think that what I'm most interested in really is to see where these kids all go, having already kind of had an interaction with space. I mean, where does that take you is kind of the next step of, maybe the evolution of that story that is not part of the documentary, but that's what it sets up. And there's, thousands of kids that were part of that program like in other states and schools as well. And, you know, as far as space goes, I mean, obviously with, you know, we have the inspiration for launch and all, as you pointed out, the corporate space industry and NASA is going back to the moon and eventually to Mars. And, you know, there's the European Space Agency is going to asteroid. I mean, like where we're going, I think as a species collectively is natural. Like, you know, we're exploring further than we've ever been able to go before. And that I think is very exciting for the next generation, because those opportunities aren't in stone yet. They have to be invented. And they're the ones that are going to be inventing those things as well. And so to wrap it all up, I kind of think that that's where the nuance of all that can go.
You know, I mean, you think about coding and the idea that it might be bland to be able to shoot, or, you know, it's kind of tedious at times as well. And it's sometimes hard to kind of, you know, make a visual kind of translation into what coding is. I know a lot of like filmmakers have been tackling with this in the fiction realm for so long. You know, they have to make up these really crazy, crazy visuals or whatever. Tell me a little bit about, you know, kind of overcoming, you know, some of that, where you want to make it interesting for the audience to be able to see these kids code and to be able to you know, show the technical aspect of these young people.
The coding challenge, it was by far the biggest challenge of doing the film. You know, trying to make coding interesting and cinematic is quite a challenge, because it's kids or anybody really just looking at a computer doing, you know, like whatever they're trying to make happen. The value that I had for the film that really kind of made it all work is that they're trying to code a GPS system around Mars. So there's something very tangible about that idea that we were able to sort of bring down to earth, for lack of a better word. And of course we used animation and things like that. The kids are you know, do a good job explaining it, but there's a mission to it, and it is a game. And so the film had the ability to kind of have a structure that's kind of like a sports movie. You know, there's a tournament that they're involved in, there's a final that they're trying to get to. And so that framework allowed me as the filmmaker to sort of unfold the coding and the game rules over time, so that it wasn't a stop down, let's stop the movie and all the pacing to just learn a bunch of stuff. You know, I didn't want that ever to happen. It was something that I needed to be organic, so that you're kind of getting engaged with the coding as you're getting engaged with the stories of the students and falling in love with their own stories. That was the pull that made all that interesting, I think, and what I focused on more than anything else. But that took a long time to figure out, honestly. It was a challenge for sure.
You know, I mean, you know, middle school students, you know, I mean, it seems like once you get to high school, you have some of that linguistic skills, as it were, and, you know, being able to answer questions and to be able to explain things. How was it for the middle schoolers that you've talked to and interviewed during this process? And, you know, I mean, were they, you know, and obviously some were probably more verbal than others, as it were, but tell me a little bit about working with the kids.
Working with kids is, it's very different in some ways, and also similar in others as with adults. What I did that I think helped was most of the interview sections of the film, or when I was doing those interviews, I tended to do them more as conversations and less like question and answers, just for comfort. I did, you know, like having somebody sit there and not really know what to say, or, you know, I took a very organic approach to working with the kids, and allowed them to kind of go wherever and take the conversations where they wanted to. You know, there's a couple of moments in the film, in particular, there's a sequence that's about global warming, and I never actually directly asked the kids about global warming in those interviews. That was something that happened organically because of the conversations we were having at the time. I mean, and that was, I think, maybe the the best way, at least for me, that I found to sort of